Hello and welcome to Friday's Granada Reports. We are live with the latest across the northwest.
Hello, on the programme this evening.
Cleared. The former Manchester City star Benjamin Mendy is acquitted of rape and attempted rape after a retrial.
It's been almost 3 years since the police started investigating this matter. Mr. Mendy has tried to remain strong, but the process has inevitably had a serious impact on him.
MMR jab alert. Our falling vaccination rates in our region a ticking time bomb for our future health.
They're all really nasty illnesses that you just really don't want to see in children. The one that we're particularly concerned about is measles.
We'll be talking live to a vaccination expert to ask what needs to happen next.
Also tonight.
I want to say a massive thank you to everyone for the well wishes.
A bedside update from the Manx missile Mark Cavendish after that crash in the Tour de France.
Forsooth, it's 1 year on from the opening of the wonderful Shakespeare North Playhouse. We're getting a glimpse behind the scenes.
And in the weather, after an unseasonably wet and windy day, it looks like the unsettled weather is set to continue. And it's St Swithin's Day tomorrow as well. So will it last for another 40 days? The details coming up.
So please do stay with us. But first tonight, the former Manchester City footballer Benjamin Mendy has been found not guilty of raping a woman and trying to rape another after a retrial.
A jury at Chester Crown Court had previously acquitted Mr Mendy of other sexual allegations in a trial which ended in January.
Our reporter Anna Yosef's here. And Anna, how did he react in court?
Well, Benjamin Mendy broke down in tears as the not guilty verdicts were given following the 3-week trial at Chester Crown Court. It took the jury just over 3 hours to clear him. And if the 28-year-old had been found guilty, he would have been facing a really lengthy prison sentence. The former Manchester City player had been accused of raping a 24-year-old woman at his mansion in Cheshire in October 2020. He was also charged with the attempted rape of a 29-year-old woman at his home 2 years earlier. Mr Mendy had denied all the charges and said that the encounters were consensual. Here's what his solicitor had to say outside court today.
We'd like to thank the members of the jury for focusing on the evidence in this trial, rather than on the rumour and innuendo that have followed this case from the outset. This is the second time that Mr Mendy has been tried and found not guilty by the jury. He is delighted that both juries reached the correct verdict.
Benjamin, 2.5 years of your life taken away.
It's been almost 3 years since the police started investigating this matter. Mr Mendy has tried to remain strong, but the process has inevitably had a serious impact on him. He thanks everyone who has supported him throughout the ordeal and now asks for privacy so he can begin rebuilding his life.
Earlier this year, Mr Mendy had been found not guilty of sexual offences against a number of women, but the jury were unable to reach verdicts for these 2 charges. What happens to his football career now remains to be seen. He is a free man, but he hasn't got a club because his contract with Manchester City expired at the end of June.
OK, Anna, thank you.
Well, next tonight, warnings from the NHS about the falling numbers of children being given the MMR vaccine in our region.
Yes, the MMR jab protects against 3 serious illnesses: measles, mumps and rubella. If any of these gets out of control, experts say there could be serious consequences for the wider population.
Yeah, the warning comes on the day of a similar warning in London, which doctors are saying could see a major measles outbreak soon. The numbers for our region make worrying reading, bearing in mind the World Health Organization says take-up of the MMR needs to be at least 95% for full protection.
NHS England figures show fewer than 90% of 5-year-olds have been fully immunised in half of northwest local authorities, while in some areas the figure is less than 80%.
The worst story is in Liverpool, where only 76% of children have had both jabs by the age of 5. That figure is only 77% in Manchester, and in Knowsley on Merseyside, a shade under 79%.
Well, health leaders say they are still battling the legacy of fears raised over the safety of the MMR in the 1990s, and also more recently, anti-vax campaigns on social media during the pandemic. Our correspondent, Victoria Grimes, has more.
To 2-year-old Reggie's generation, measles isn't something they see much of. Thanks to the MMR jab, it's been pretty much eradicated in the UK, and medical experts want to keep it that way. His mum Libby works in childcare. Getting Reggie vaccinated was a no-brainer.
As babies at that age, the immunity is very weak, so they can catch all sorts, so just to make sure he didn't get anything and get really ill. Everyone that I know that has children have got it done, and it only seems like the right thing to do, really. Hi! I'll say that's fine.
And health leaders say it is the right thing to do, but they're worried that take-up rates for the vaccine are falling. Since the MMR jab was introduced 25 years ago, millions of children have been safely vaccinated. But experts say they're still battling the legacy of unfounded safety fears in the 1990s, and more recently, anti-vax campaigns on social media during the pandemic.
Started to decline just before COVID, but it's really dropped off since COVID. And this is really worrying because it means that we are starting to see a resurge in childhood illnesses that we really don't want to see. And the predominant one that we're talking about at the minute is measles. We're starting to see cases of measles now in young children, which is a really serious illness, and we want to prevent that.
And with a warning that 1 in 5 children with measles will end up in hospital with complications as serious as pneumonia and brain inflammation, it's something that mums here in Bolton want to avoid at all cost.
I think, to be honest, before it was just everyone that used to get vaccinated, it was a no-brainer. But I do feel that there's a lot more people are questioning vaccines in general, a lot more, probably since COVID. But with the MMRs, we don't worry about things like you don't want, well, I wouldn't want my kids to catch measles or anything like that.
How scared would you be if one of your kids got measles or something? Oh, I would be really scared. Just generally when they're unwell, it's already scary as it is. So I wouldn't want them to get measles or rubella.
Yeah. Well, MMR obviously stands for measles, mumps, rubella. Rubella, thank you very much indeed. And the idea is that by vaccinating people, then we get to scrub these diseases out for good. And that is why it's so important, health professionals say, to get your child vaccinated. That's it, scribble it out. Come on, there we go.
What would be your message to parents of young children who are watching this now about the MMR vaccine?
If you know they've not been vaccinated against MMR, please call your GP. It's a safe vaccine. My children have had it. I'm happy that it's safe, and it's just really important that we protect children against measles, because measles is not safe. It's a really nasty illness.
And with no age limit on the vaccine, the advice is that it's never too late to get protected. Victoria Grimes, ITV News, Bolton.
Well, joining us now is Dr. Helen Wall, who you saw in Victoria's report there. Always good to see Dr. Wall. The figures for the MMR, it does make for quite sobering reading, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's not great, is it? And as we said in the VT there, we've seen it starting to decline before COVID, but it's certainly nosedived since the pandemic. And there's numerous reasons for that. You know, we spoke about the anti-vax activity and things that have gone on since COVID. But I think also it's perhaps been a little bit of a victim of its own success. You know, many young parents haven't seen measles. They don't know what measles is. They might not know it's serious. In fact, many of the junior doctors in hospitals and practices have never seen a case of measles because the vaccine was so successful in eradicating it. It's going to be a real shame now if we undo that by, you know, by the drop-off in the vaccination rates and we start to see those cases again.
How concerned should our viewers at home be right now?
Well, I don't think we need to be concerned about an imminent huge outbreak like they've had the warnings about in London. UCSA, the UK Health Security Agency, have been very clear that the risk generally is low for the rest of the country at the minute. But my concern is that, you know, we tend to mirror what happens in London. Manchester's a big city. I work over Greater Manchester. I know we talk about the whole of the North West. But, you know, in terms of Manchester as a city, that that tends to mirror what happens in London. So I would be concerned that we would be in a similar situation if we don't pick up our rates of vaccination. I think there's no point being concerned because there's something you can do about it. Yeah. If you know that your child's not had the vaccine, please contact us. If you're not sure, contact us. And there's no cut-off to when you can have this vaccination. Ideally, you have it at age 1 and around age 3 to 5, so that you've had both doses before you start school. But if you're older than that, even if you're a teenager, if you're going off to university and you haven't had it, you can still get the MMR vaccine from your GP.
You mentioned it briefly before, that there certainly was a concerted anti-vax message on social media during COVID. There was some evidence, though, wasn't there, that some COVID vaccines did cause harm?
There was evidence that, like any vaccine, there's always going to be side effects. There's nothing, MMR is completely different to COVID. This is a vaccine that's been around since 1988. As you heard, there were concerns around it in the 2000s, so consequently we've got lots of adults going off to university, mixing at Glastonbury and all the rest of it, who are 19 to 25, who didn't have the MMR vaccine. If this level continues to drop and we start to see lots more cases of measles coming through, it will start to spread quickly and we will see lots more people at risk. So I think, we've just got to focus on the fact that this is not, although we've had COVID in the middle of it, this MMR vaccine is nothing to do with that. It's a vaccine that we've had for many, many years. People have been successfully vaccinated. Well, we removed measles from the UK up until about 2018 when it started to resurface again. So, we've got something in our hands here that we can prevent this catastrophe happening with, and we need to use it.
Yeah, obviously it's very important that it's a completely different vaccine, isn't it? The warning today coming from London is quite worrying, though, isn't it? What could the consequences be if this did get out of control?
It's a very, very contagious infection. So, once it starts to spread, and it'll spread because we're all mixing as we were before COVID, it will start to spread quite quickly. And the modelling that's been done in London shows that we could have tens of thousands of people with measles at any one time. I think they said between 40,000 and 160,000. We could have a massive surge of that, and we don't want that to, we don't want that to happen because it is so preventable. 1 in 5 children who get measles end up in hospital, and about a third have serious complications. So it is a really serious illness that we can do something about. So we need to heed that warning, really.
In about 10 seconds, Dr. Wall, what are the telltale signs of measles, mumps and rubella?
Well, they're very different illnesses, but we'll pick measles because that's the one that we're concerned about at the minute. Measles is a high fever, snotty nose, red eyes, and then the rash appears, a blotchy red rash. So very similar to other childhood illnesses, which is why, again, we can't often differentiate it early on, so it spreads, and that's what we need to be mindful of. The only way to protect it from spreading is to have over 95% of our population vaccinated, and that's the key.
Good stuff. Dr. Wall, always good to chat. Thank you.
Thank you.
And there's more information about the MMR and how to get it. Head to our website, itv.com/Granada.
To more of the day's news now, and a mother from Oldham has been sentenced to life in prison for the murder of her 5-year-old son. A jury heard how Dylan Scanlon was found dead on New Year's Eve in 2021. He'd been beaten and poisoned with his mum's antidepressants following a row she'd had with his father. 38-year-old Claire Scanlon must serve a minimum of 18 years before being considered for parole.
The 13-year-old boy is among 5 more people charged in connection with a riot at a hotel in Knowsley, which is housing asylum seekers. A police van was set on fire outside of the Suites Hotel in Kirby in February. 3 teenage boys and 2 men aged 38 and 60 have been charged with violent disorder. They'll appear in court later this month.
Live music helped bring an extra £696 million to the region's economy last year, according to new figures. UK music found concerts from stars like Elton John, and Manchester's Parklife Festival attracted almost 2 million people to the northwest.
And here is what's still to come on the ITV News at 6:30 with Charlene.
Coming up at 6:30, nearly 1,000 Gatwick Airport staff call a strike for the start of the summer holidays. Passengers face disruption from the end of July and into the first week of August. MPs call for urgent and fundamental reform to NHS dental care amid stories of patients being forced to pull their own teeth. And the Prince and Princess of Wales and their family attend a rainy Royal International Air Tattoo in Gloucestershire. So do join us for those stories and more from 6:30.
OK, time for sport now, and an old rivalry resumes in Super League tonight. Here's Chris.
That's right, an old rivalry with very recent history. It's just 4 weeks since Wigan Warriors knocked Warrington Wolves out of the Challenge Cup. Tonight's Super League points are at stake, with only points difference separating the two teams in the battle for playoff spots. David Chisnall can join us live from the DW Stadium. David, plenty at stake tonight.
Oh, absolutely, Chris. Yes, welcome to a rather soggy stadium ahead of what is one of Rugby League's most fiercest and oldest rivalries. It's Wigan against Warrington here at the DW Stadium tonight. Kick-off is around 8 o'clock this evening. Delighted to say that joining me now is Warrington's assistant head coach, Richard Marshall. Richard, we'll come to you because, well, it's not been the greatest of runs that you've been on this evening. It's a huge game for you tonight, but 6 defeats in your last 7 games. How important is it to turn that round and turn that round quickly?
Yeah, it's important that we get a real good performance this evening. I thought last week against St Helens we had a really good goal. Obviously, yeah, we're lacking a little bit of form and confidence at the moment, but if we can put our best foot forward tonight, I'm sure we'll be on the right side of the result.
I must just say congratulations to you this evening as well, because, well, we can see you in your civvies now, but you had your cap and gown on earlier today. Tell us about that.
Yeah, I did. I got a master's degree in elite coaching practice from UCLan. So, yeah, it's been an exciting day for me today. Lots going on. I hope the icing on the cake is a win tonight for the Warrington Wolves.
What would that mean as well to win tonight?
Oh, it'd mean a lot for us. I thought we've had a really good week this week, and as I said earlier, backing up the performance from St Helens last week is important. Wigan are a fantastic team, though. It's really tough here. We obviously had a close game in the Cup against them a couple of weeks ago, and we're looking to right that tonight.
Right, I'm going to bring Matty Peter now as well. Matt, can we bring you in as well? Thank you for doing this and for joining us. I know, obviously, last look at this. Interrupting pre-match preparations to come and join us this evening. Thanks so much for this. For you guys as well, we were just talking to Richard, but how big is this? Obviously, we're coming into the final third of the season now. How big is it to really get that push and start building towards those end-of-season playoffs?
Yeah, I think both teams are in a bit of a similar position where they've had highs and lows through the season, but they want to be finding some momentum now and putting some consistency together. But as well as that, when these two teams come together, generally both teams raise the game and are at the best. There's a lot of healthy respect between the two clubs and the two sets of players. So whether you look at it where it sits in the season or just as a standalone fixture, I think everyone's in for an exciting night.
Now, obviously, you won the Challenge Cup last season, by your first season in charge. How important is it for this club, for these fans, to win trophies?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think it's you won't stick around here for long, whether that's a coach or a player. You know, the expectations are very high, and similar at Warrington, that's why you want to be at these kind of clubs, to be involved in the big games, and when you get there, you want to win them. But no, there's an expectation here, and we wouldn't have it any other way.
And briefly, just tell us, because tonight's game's been classed as a heritage game as well. What is that, and how important is it?
So a heritage game is one where we invite all our past players, and all week really we've been celebrating the history and heritage of the club and players and staff that have gone before us. And it's fitting that we get to see the two academy teams as well come together. So, yeah, a real good celebration of the club tonight. Hopefully we can play our part.
Fantastic. Guys, Matt and Richard, thank you so much for joining us this evening. There we go. Big game this evening, always is, when Wigan face Warrington.
Yeah, thanks, David. Should be a cracking. Para swimmers heading to the World Championships in Manchester have been getting their first look at the venue. The Manchester Aquatics Centre has reopened after a £13 million revamp with help from the National Lottery. The World Championships are just over a fortnight away, but until now, athletes like Manchester-based world champion Ellie Chalice have had to train in the centre's basement.
Everything's very clean, which is lovely, because it's not normally you get pools. Definitely in other countries you don't get pools as clean as this, and it's very bright compared to downstairs. To train in the pool, we're going to be racing in a couple of weeks, gives us such a benefit. It just makes it feel more real, so very excited to get to Worlds.
I saw the Olympic Games on the TV for the first time in 1980 and saw a guy called Duncan Gucci win the Olympic gold medal, and that for me was a little moment of I wanted to go to the Olympic Games. So you kind of forget how much of an impact this will have on people locally, whether it's in parasport or swimming in general, that hopefully one of those kids will come and watch and go, I want to be like one of those lot.
Now to cycling and an update on Mark Cavendish from his hospital bed. The Isle of Man cyclist says he'll take a few weeks to recover from surgery after breaking his collarbone on stage 8 of the Tour de France last week. Despite that, he says he enjoyed riding for the Astana team, who've offered him another crack at the Tour next year.
We had an incredible time. And obviously it wasn't how I wanted to finish personally, But I'll be watching them. I missed the stage today because I was in surgery. And now I'm just leaving and going home. But I want to say a massive thank you to everyone for the well wishes, for all the love and the support and that. It's been wicked.
Yeah, we wish him well, and it's good to see him looking better now. But what we want to know is whether he's going to be in the Tour de France next year. He's due to retire at the end of this season. He's been offered a place again next year to try and break Eddie Merckx's record of 34 stage wins. He needs one more, but he's not telling us yet.
Just one more.
Just one more. It can't be that hard, can it?
Oh, I mean, it doesn't look that hard, does it?
Fantastic. Fingers crossed for next year.
We need the Manx missile back, don't we? Best of
She
luck,
says it doesn't look that hard. What are you talking about?
I do it on a weekend, don't know. Well, next, and just to prove that time flies when you're enjoying yourself, this happened a year ago.
Hello, and welcome to a very special Granada report, live from Prescott for the grand opening of the Shakespeare Playhouse North. Tonight, as we come on air, huge crowds of people are parading through the town centre to see their new theatre.
Yeah, what a great day as the Shakespeare North Playhouse in Prescott on Merseyside opened its doors.
Yes, since then, more than 100,000 people have visited, 1 in 10 of whom had never been to a theatre before.
To celebrate their first birthday, a new play's in production, Midsummer Mechanicals, a rework of Shakespeare's A Midsummer Night's Dream, which opens tomorrow night.
Our entertainment correspondent Caroline Whitmore went to check on rehearsals.
Well, the Shakespeare North Playhouse here in the centre of Prescott took about 2 years to build, and now here we are, a year later. How has your first year been?
Incredible. I couldn't have wished for anything better. I think when we met a year ago and we were sat here, you know, I think to myself, if I could have written a postcard saying this is what I'd like, I got that and more. We've had 1,300 performances. We've had over 150 events.
Wow.
We've had 100,000 visitors so far. And I think what's really interesting is 10% of those have never been to a theatre before. So what that tells us is that people are craving culture, they're craving art, they're craving world-class theatre. And that's exactly what we're delivering.
I think what I found a year ago, the excitement of the community of Prescott, you know, the first time they went through those doors. Have you still got that now a year later?
Yeah, we wanted to be a playhouse for the people. I'm going to send another postcard in a year's time. It is about casting the net open, casting it wide and saying, come visit us. We're inspired by Shakespeare and we bring joy. That's our vision. Hopefully, you know, 5, 10, 15 years' time, we'll be sitting here saying exactly the same thing.
Oh, we will. We'll be here. We'll be here. I'll still be here.
Then let us teach our trial patience.
It's their first anniversary and they opened last year with Midsummer Night's Dream, and this year we're doing Midsummer Mechanicals, which is sort of a sequel to A Midsummer Night's Dream.
It looks exactly like a donkey's head. I saw it last night. What was that? A donkey's head.
The premise in this sequel is the Duke and Duchess loved it so much last year, they've invited them back to do it again. And so they've written a new piece, less tragic, more magic.
What? And you've all come from the Globe Theatre in London. How is it for you performing in this space in the Northwest?
Oh, it's fantastic. I love it. The space we're performing in at the Globe in London is it's designed by the same architect. They've used the same sort of wood, green oak. The stage is Baltic pine. You learn all of this. It's lovely. It feels like a home from home. In fact, I might like it a bit better.
I was going to ask you that.
Sorry.
It's been able to really, you know, fulfill our dreams really, as having this place as a leading cultural venue, a landmark venue for Prescott. So 12 months ago, you know, when we came here and the opening was on, we had over 1,500 people visited in one evening, and that was one of our key highlights.
Favourite Shakespeare quote? Mine is this a dagger I see before me?
Oh.
From the one that we're not supposed to talk about. We're not allowed to mention his name. What's your favourite quote?
Oh my gosh.
Lord, what fools these mortals be.
You can't ask me for one quote.
To be or not to be, and this has actually been, and we'll carry on.
That is the question.
That is the question, and I think by looking at this place, we've certainly delivered on that.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah, many happy returns, Shakespeare North Playhouse. Now, the weather, is it going to be a tragedy, boo, or a comedy? Yay.
Yay.
Here's Em with the details.
Have you burnt tea again?
I'm scraping the cooled oil into the bin, not the sink.
Can we eat outside? It's nice.
United Utilities sponsors ITV Granada weather.
Hello there, hope you've had a good day today in spite of the weather. A couple of pictures before the rain came in, although the winds have really been the main feature and will continue to be so over the next couple of days. It was a bit of a toss-up as to which picture to use from Steve Mulville, who sent 3 really good ones, but this is a bit of a 2-for-1 because we've got a windswept teddy as well as a rainbow in the background there, so thank you for sharing, Steve. And as we head into the next few days, heavy showers are expected. A few sunny spells as well, but it will be very windy indeed, and it was particularly windy across the Isle of Man today with some large waves at the coast. We've got a couple of areas of low pressure merging together into one big low, and that's been spinning some very persistent rain up from the southwest to the northeast today into tomorrow. The showers keep coming over the next few days, and there could be heavy and there could be some hail, thunder and lightning in those tomorrow as well. It is, however, St Swithin's Day tomorrow, and apparently what sort of weather you get tomorrow you get for the next 40 days. But thankfully, there has been very little scientific proof of that. In fact, there's been no scientific proof of that being the case, and so fingers crossed. Rewinding then to the forecast for our part of the world over the next few hours, you can see that today's persistent rain and strong winds tend to ease away to the northeast there, but quickly followed by a few showers as we head into the early hours of Saturday morning. These really start to pep up as we head towards Saturday morning itself. Could be, as I say, some hail, thunder and lightning. The winds ease overnight, however, they remain still quite strong through the Irish Sea there. Sun's up tomorrow at 4:59, sets at 9:34. The showers become widespread very quickly. Gusts of 40 miles an hour inland, but nearer 50 or 55 at the coast and across the Isle of Man, and also over higher ground, but fewer showers likely on Sunday. Bye-bye.
It's a little bit burnt.
United Utilities sponsors ITV Granada weather.
Favourite Shakespeare line?
It's got to be hubble, bubble, toil and trouble.
Nice. If music be the food of love, play on. Give me excess fit. That's a fate on the appetite may sicken and so die.
Get him on the stage.
Hey, we'll see you next week. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.